Okay, well, this story has a beginning before I met her. Uh, we was on a cruise, was on a 7-day cruise on the Mississippi Queen. I was captain on the Mississippi Queen at the time. And that means you leave New Orleans and then the next morning you're in Homer's House Plantation, then you go to St. Francisville, and then you go on and to Natchez and to Vicksburg, and then you leave Vicksburg. We finish up there. We're there all day, and we leave there around 5:30. Now, if we really hustle, we can get to Natchez around 11 o'clock that night, because our tours are for 7 o'clock the next morning. But we get to Natchez, and then the whole crew can have liberty in Natchez. And you're talking about 190 in the crew on the Mississippi Queen. So anyway, we got in early, and I went up. I usually like to go up to a little place called Natchez Under the Hill Bar, and go in, and they'll buy me a drink, and I play a piano for the people that are in there. And I finished doing that, and back then I was in much better shape than I am now, and I used to walk 5 miles a day, and I walked up the hill, under the hill, up downtown and everything around Natchez, looked around, went into one of the clubs up there where about 80% of the crew was, and paid my respects and left. Started back going down the hill. I was going on back to the boat. It was pretty close to 1 o'clock in the morning by now. And just as I started to go by the Under the Hill Bar again, this guy stumbles out the door with his girlfriend. And it's John Carradine. And I had my uniform on, so he said, "Are you the captain on that boat?" And I said, "Yeah, I sure am." He says, "Well, I'm David Carradine." And he said, "I'm David Carradine." He says, "And I'd like to see your boat." So I said, "Okay." So we went on down to the boat, and I took him back to our paddle wheel bar, which is, we had several bars on the Mississippi Queen. This one was the late, open late. It was about 2 o'clock, and actually they were fixing to close. But I told him to sit down and have a drink, and I personally paid out of my pocket the bartender to stay and serve him drinks as long as he wanted to drink. And he was sloshed. He was drinking vodka on the rocks, and he was chasing it down with Grand Marnier, the bourbon, stuff. And I was a chaser each time. And we started talking. I asked him how his dad was, and oh, he's fine. And so then he decides to go up and play the piano. So he goes up, just he and me and his girlfriend, and he starts singing and playing the piano. And he actually wasn't that bad, but he really wasn't that good. But he was having a good time, and I was enjoying, doing something nice for him, because he's a pretty famous actor. And so anyway, came back, and I showed him to the gangway, and they stumbled off the hill, up the hill, and I went on to bed. Well, the next day, we were still sitting there, and I was still sitting in Natchez, and I went back, and I met someone, says, a member of my crew, says, "Man, did you know David Carradine is in town?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "He was on the boat last night." And he says, "Yeah, we knew he was on, and we asked him how he enjoyed the Mississippi Queen." He says, "What's the Mississippi Queen?" He had absolutely no memory of being on board or any of that happening. But anyway, later in the day, the chief purser came and got me and says, "I want you to meet somebody." So he comes and I walk down to the paddle wheel bar. It was in the middle of the day, and there, sitting at the table, was Jean Simmons, a famous movie actress. And we sit and talk for a long time, and had this picture made, one of my favorites.
Well, what year was that, Cap?
84, somewhere around 1984. She was in town with David Carradine making the movie North South. I know many people saw.
Didn't you have a little bit part in that one?
No, I didn't have a bit part in that. I had a part in another movie altogether called Uncle Tom's Cabin, and that was filmed in Natchez.
Okay, back to Jean there. What's your encounter with her about?
Well, she was. I was just sitting there in awe that that's who I was sitting with. You know, knowing all the movies that she was in. What was it we figured out? How many movies?
77, from 1944 to 2008.
Yeah, 1944 to 2008. And she was from England, right?
Born in Britain.
Born in Britain. So we've had other movie stars aboard. I put her in the same category as I did Helen Hayes. Helen Hayes, she probably rode the Mississippi Queen over 40 times.
Great patrons of riverboats.
Yeah, oh, she was, very much so. And it was one of the most memorable trips that I ever had. I do have there was, I think I'd like to call it a magic moment, because there were several of those while I was over with Delta Queen. One was we was on our way on the Delta Queen northbound, and our next stop was Marietta, Ohio. So we stopped. We was running ahead of schedule, and the pilot called me in my room and says, we're running ahead of schedule. I said, well, tie off at Blennerhassett Island, because I knew that Blennerhassett Island there was a place where we could actually land. Blennerhassett Island was an island, and they had reproduced this home of this, I think his name was David Blennerhassett, might be wrong on the first name, but he went off with Aaron Burr to Mexico to raise troops against the United States, I guess. So anyway, his home got burned and everything, but they rebuilt this. So when we was getting up, I got up early. The sun was coming up when I got up, and I looked out. We was docked there, and no, actually we wasn't docked yet. We was coming in on the place, and they got me up to land the boat. So I was easing up on there, and I could see people in the fog running around on this in front of the house, because you could see the big, huge mansion that's rebuilt there. And it was a guy in a tuxedo and a girl in a wedding dress, and they was actually out there getting their pictures made, their wedding pictures made in front of this house when we pulled up. Now, as
kind of enhance your shots.
Oh, yeah, and as we pulled up, all the passengers was already up by now watching what was going on. This was like a national park thing, little area, and there were deer roaming around. And there were two little small does walked up on the gangplank, up onto the front deck on the Delta Queen, and then turned around and walked back off. Now, if that wasn't an experience, I don't know what it is.
Sounds like a good day for everybody. Okay, I guess we'll have to wrap it up, Cap, and hope everybody comes back for Volume 10. Thank you very much.